Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanishalaakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet. In this session, we'll be discussing from the 43rd verse of the 9th chapter of the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. The prayers are over. Now, Sutta Goswami, who is narrating this whole incident to the sages of Naimisharanya, he is speaking now. Sutta Uvacha Krishna evam Bhagavati Manovag Drishti Vritti Bhihi Atmani Atmanam Aveshya So Antashvasa Uparamat. The meaning of this verse is Sutta Goswami said, thus Bhishmadeva merged himself in the Supersoul, Lord Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, with his mind, speech, sight and actions, and thus he became silent and his breathing stopped. So this is the verse that is describing Bhishmadeva has quit his body in Krishna consciousness, because his mind, his speech, his sight and actions are all completely absorbed in Krishna. So Srila Prabhupada says in the purport, the stage attained by Bhishmadeva while quitting his material body is called nirvikalpa samadhi. This is a technical term. What's the meaning of this term, nirvikalpa samadhi? That is also explained by Srila Prabhupada. Nirvikalpa samadhi, it's called nirvikalpa samadhi because he, that is Bhishmadeva, merged himself into thinking of the Lord and his mind into remembering his different activities. He chanted the glories of the Lord. That's the speech. And by his sight, he began to see the Lord personally present before him. And thus, all his activities became concentrated upon the Lord without deviation. Samadhi means total absorption. Total absorption of the mind, of the thinking, that is the mind, activity of the mind, the speech, and the sight, and the very self. So, thinking, remembering, glorifying, and seeing. In all these ways, Bhishma was totally absorbed in thought of Krishna. This is the highest stage of perfection, this total absorption. And it is possible for everyone to attain this stage by practice of devotional service. So here Prabhupada is teaching us there is the highest perfectional stage to be attained in the practice of devotional service. Devotional service means practicing, focusing our attention on Krishna. Krishna means the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He has so many different features. So every possible way, if we can absorb ourselves in thought of Krishna, in thinking of Krishna, in glorifying Krishna, in hearing about Krishna, in seeing Krishna's form, either as the deity or as the personally Krishna is present. In the case of Bhishma, he is personally present, so Bhishma is directly seeing Krishna before quitting his body. And the beautiful form he is describing, he has already described in his prayers the beautiful form of Krishna. So this is the highest perfection to be attained, and it's possible for anyone, provided one practices devotional service. Now, devotional service itself, how is it performed? So Srila Prabhupada says, based on the explanation in the 7th canto of the Bhagavatam, the devotional service of the Lord consists of 9 principles of service activities. Devotional service is not something idle, simply sitting and doing nothing. No. Devotional service, bhakti means devotional service. So it consists of service activities, activities rendered while having a service attitude. I want to serve Krishna to please him. I want to serve Krishna in a loving attitude. And these 9 principles of service activities are described in the Bhagavatam 7th canto as: number 1, hearing. Hearing about Krishna, Shravanam. Number 2, chanting, Kirtanam. Number 3, remembering. Remembering in Sanskrit it's called Smaranam. Number 4, serving the lotus feet of Krishna, Pada Sevanam. Number 5, worshipping, Archanam, deity worship, specifically deity worship. Number 6, praying, Vandanam, offering prayers, just like Bhishma did. He was remembering Krishna's pastimes. He was praying, offer prayers. He was chanting the glories of Krishna. And like that, he was engaged in all possible ways in service activities before quitting his body. Totally absorbed in that. So number 7, executing the orders. It's called dasyam. Dasyam. A servant is specially meant for simply carrying out the orders of the master. Just like Hanuman. Whatever Rama ordered, Hanuman simply carried out that order. So that is dasyam. Then 8th one of the list of 9 service activities. 8th one is fraternizing, sakhyam, acting as a rendering service rather as a friend of the Lord, friend of Lord Krishna, just like Arjuna. Rendering service as a friend of Krishna. And the final one, 9th one, fully surrendering, Atma Nivedanam, total self-surrender. Total self-surrender, Bali Maharaj. Each one of these, we have an ideal described in the Bhagavatam. Any one of them, any one of the 9 or all of them are equally competent to award the desired result, that is the highest perfection of total absorption of oneself in the Supreme Lord Krishna. But they require to be practiced persistently under the guidance of an expert devotee of the Lord. Who's that expert devotee of the Lord? The bona fide spiritual master. So the bona fide spiritual master gives guidance, gives instructions, helps the disciple to actually practice one or more of these 9 items, 9 principles of service activities rendered for Krishna by a devotee, and they have to be practiced. In the beginning, it will not be very nicely done, but by repeatedly doing again and again. Abhyasa yoga yuktena chetasa na anyagamina, without deviation of the attention, persistently focused, the attention, mainly the attention, completely focused on Krishna. So, of these 9, Srila Prabhupada says, the first item, hearing, is the most important item of all. Bhakti begins with hearing. Bhakti begins with hearing. So, the most important item is hearing, Shravanam. And therefore, hearing of the Bhagavad Gita and later on Srimad Bhagavatam is essential for the serious candidate who wants to attain the stage of Bhishmadeva at the end. So, practice hearing Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. From whom should you hear? From Srila Prabhupada. For all of us now, we should hear from Prabhupada. Prabhupada has given discourses, and he also has written Bhagavad Gita translation and purport, Bhagavatam translation and purport. So we should read, or we should hear somebody else reading Prabhupada's book, Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam. And in this way, we should completely become absorbed in the subject matter that is described in the Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam. Both are Krishna Katha. Bhagavad Gita is personally spoken by Krishna, and Bhagavatam is spoken by Shukadev Goswami and other great devotees about Krishna. So they are both Krishna Katha. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has instructed everyone to hear these 2 scriptures, Krishna Katha, as given in these 2 scriptures, Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam, and thereby perfect our devotional service. The unique situation at Bhishmadeva's time of death can be attained, even though Lord Krishna may not be personally present. In the case of Bhishma, he was very, very fortunate, and it's rare that Krishna is personally present before the devotee who is quitting his body. That's very special, very rare. Bhishmadeva was blessed by Krishna. But even if Krishna is not personally present in front of us, when we are quitting the body, we can attain that situation that Bhishma was himself in, that nirvikalpa samadhi, total absorption of the self in Krishna is possible. How? So Prabhupada says, his words of the Bhagavad Gita or those of Srimad Bhagavatam are identical with the Lord. This is the meaning of Krishna is absolute. Krishna, the person, his form, his qualities, his pastimes, his words, his descriptions, his paraphernalia, his abode, all are identical 100% with Krishna. And there is no difference at all between them. So, Prabhupada describes Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam as sound incarnations of the Lord. Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam are sound incarnations of the Lord. And one can fully utilize them to be entitled to the stage of Sri Bhishmadeva, who was one of the 8 Vasus. Bhishmadeva, before this birth, He was one of the 8 Vasus in the upper planets. He took birth as Bhishma and he attained this perfection. Everyone has to quit the body, but quitting the body like Bhishmadeva is the ideal. Not dying in ignorance, not dying in thought of something else or someone else, but dying in thought of Krishna. I'll stop here. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.